Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the opportunity to work on another reel that David brought in. And this one is a Daiwa Sealine 600H. It's a very large, very durable reel in about a 6.0 size that was manufactured in the 1980s. This reel is, well, it's in beautiful condition. It's been catching a lot of fish, and there's a lot more fish that it will catch if tuned up and kept well. David did ask me to change out the drag washers. We went to smoothdrag.com to get the replacement washers, and I've just started taking off the pieces and parts when I thought it might be a good idea to do the video on this one. So I've removed 2 screws, and well, we're going to take off the rest of the exterior pieces and parts, including the side plate. And while I do that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. And if you do subscribe to my channel, please use that notification button. That's going to let you know when I post videos. I post all kinds of videos, mostly service and repair, but I also do product reviews, and I do little informational type videos on things like fishing reel tackle manufacturers and the like. Sometimes I do a little bit of history of the reels and the like. If you enjoy those, I want to encourage you again to subscribe. I'm using a light steel wool, a 4.0, which is basically a polishing steel wool, to kind of clean that up as I take the pieces and parts off. And I want to make sure that these come off easily, so we'll put a little bit of spray on that sleeve there. And when I take my pieces and parts off, I have a part strategy that is to use a parts tray to keep track of them so that I don't lose them. You should also plan what you're going to do with the parts that you remove prior to removing them. It's a heck of a thing to start taking the pieces and parts off, piling them on your workbench kind of haphazardly, and then find out, well, you can't locate a piece or a part, and well, then you have your problems. So start by thinking about what you're going to do with those parts when you remove them, and then follow through on that once you do. Alright, we've taken off about as much as we can on the outside of this reel, and if I'm thinking, this may be like the pen reels where you can remove the drag stack. On some of them you can, some of them you can't. I'm going to do it the traditional way. I'm going to take them off from after removing the side plate. These use Phillips head screws. I will next take my screwdriver, and when I remove these, I want to make sure that all screws are the same size. Sometimes manufacturers put different length screws or different threaded screws in different places. You want to make sure that you identify the odd ones, if there are odd ones, so that when you go to reinstall, you put them back in the same place. Okay, I think there's one more left here. These are beautiful reels. They compare very favorably to the Penn 6.0 Senators. Both of them are very well made. Both of them have great reputations. And for the most part, you can still get pieces and parts for service of these reels. All right, you can see the back end almost looks like a Penn Senator, kind of a strength of character and the like. Notice when this came out that the harness lug fits over. And this is a good place to suggest that you take pictures as you service your reel. If you take those pictures, if you get stuck, those pictures will help you identify where the location of the piece was, what the orientation of that part was, and well, how to put it back where it belongs. Okay, there's a bearing in the side plate here. I'm going to oil it, and when I did a pre-test of this reel was doing fine. It's actually a very clean reel, given the piece. And well, we just got to unhook some of this. They had the line tied off, and I generally like to put a rubber band on the spool. One thing that rubber band does is tells the owner that I've been inside the reel, so it's no nonsense there. You can't put a rubber band on a spool without taking the spool out. Alright, that'll hold the line in place. That doesn't have to go in a parts tray. It's big enough, you're not going to miss it, particularly with that orange string on it there, braid. Alright, 4 bridge screws now. Well, that's a little hard to turn. I'm going to go to a flat-bladed screwdriver for that. If it got any harder to turn than this, what I would do is I would go spray that down with some penetrating oil to loosen the threads. These reels are primarily used in salt water. And if you use them in a saltwater environment, they tend to get thread locked with the salt as it deteriorates. And, well, penetrating oil helps to break that up. All right, there we go. I got loose. I think what I'm going to do is just that as we come through the rest of these. They were a little tight to turn. They weren't impossible. We didn't risk breaking them off. But putting that spray on there will certainly facilitate getting them back in. Notice that that one is a short screw. I think there's only one short screw on this, if I remember. Probably be wrong there. Yep, there's two. Maybe they're all short. There's a threaded piece that they use on these, on the bridge. And I'm going to have it backwards. Maybe there's one long one. Okay, well, whatever we learn, we remember. All right, these are all 4 or small screws. You won't confuse those with the outer ring. Make sure your eccentric jack is in the up position, and then you should be able to push through and remove the working side of this reel. It's a big reel, as I mentioned, heavy duty gears, and well, just a nice piece of machinery. I'm going to use a spray on this bearing side here to mop that up. I noticed there is some old grease that is stuck on there. I want to get that off. And the rest of the reel inside is pretty clean. Now, if it was something you couldn't get off with a paper towel, work around it. Use the penetrating oil to dissolve the greases and the like. And well, just use paper towels, possibly some 4-0s, steel wool and the like to help you. All right, let's remove the gear stack on this, if we can. Just simply pull up and off, but this one, there we go, that's off. Our jack is off. Now, here's a good point here. If you didn't take a picture and you just pulled that and you didn't know where that spring belonged, you'd have some trouble on your hands. So if you took a picture before, you'd notice that's the anti-reverse dog spring. And fortunately, I've worked on enough of these reels that if they do pop out, I kind of get to remembering where they belong. That's not always the case on the first time. So take a picture at critical junctures. It will help you as you disassemble the reel, and more importantly, as you go to reinstall, if you have something like what just happened there happen to you. And I'm just fishing out a little bit of the dirt in this little cavity here. It's old dried grease. And once I clean them, they go into the parts tray as well. Got the main gear off. Now we notice that we have a anti-reverse dog that's kind of clogged up with that grease as well. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Let me use that steel wool. It just helps pull it off a little bit quicker. These parts are very heavy-duty parts. They're very well constructed, and I believe this reel was made in Japan. All right, you see that these are posts here, and we have posts up on this side here. These posts are holding in your yoke and your pinion gear, and they're held in by E-clips. So I'm going to push out on the E-clips. Or better yet, maybe I'll just grab a little micro screwdriver here and pull it out. And this is a balancing act because you want to get the clip off, but you don't want to shoot the clip off, which is a possibility because it's under tension. Just take your time. Patience is a virtue here, but you have your E-clip and you have your spring comes off. We got another set on this side. Sometimes you can pull them off with your fingers if you have the strength. Guess I'm just not feeling that strong today. We'll do this again one more time. So we have the two E-clips and the two springs there, and then we can remove our yoke assembly. And there's two studs that come out the back side. We got one more piece here. That piece is the gear sleeve. That's held in by a pin. And most of the time you can push this pin out with a little awl. And when you get it to about there, you should be able to remove this from the sleeve. Maybe not. Maybe I don't have it out enough. There we go. Because you want to clean that sleeve. You can see the old dirt, grease, and debris in this one. So we're going to use that penetrating oil again. Sort of my go-to product for loosening up all that grease, dirt, and the like. This makes it easier. And then you can use a less abrasive cleaning method, such as the paper towel here. All right, the bridge is clean. This one goes back in here, like that. And, well, we can make sure that we clean the bottom. Don't just think it was sitting on the bridge. It wasn't. It was clogging in here as well. I'm going to put my finger over the hole there, put a little penetrating oil into that inner hole there, cotton swab, and go scrub that as well, because we know that there was dirt and grease on there. Get all of that out. And then we can take our fishing reel grease. I'm using Penn Precision Reel Grease. And we can grease up that shaft before we install the gear sleeve. I'm going to use a pliers to pull that pin back in. You could tap it in with a hammer. I've just found over time this pliers works pretty effectively. And we note that there is a red washer on the bottom here. Well, in the drag washer replacements, they provide a replacement for this. So we're going to go take this one off, put the other one on while we're over here. And Smooth Drag carries a lot of different drag washers. They are online. It's smoothdrag.com. And in this case, we have one for a vintage reel. All right, this is your replacement that goes over the shaft behind the main gear. What we'll do next then is we're going to clean our pinion gear and yoke, and then we'll go ahead and put the rest of this reel back together again and complete the tune-up. First thing I'm going to do is wipe this down clean. You've seen the drill before. We'll use a little bit of penetrating oil. This thing is pretty stubborn, so I'm going to go to back to that steel wall just to make sure I get it all off. And it's two sides that gets the grease, so two sides that gets cleaned. If you have questions, maybe on this reel, maybe on the process, maybe on a different reel, not even associated with this one, leave those questions in the comment section. I will try to answer those for you. Another thing to clean is the pinion gear. Again, I'll just use that penetrating oil as a starter. And I'm going to go to a hard brush, and I'm going to pull through on that. When I do that, I like to pull it through onto a paper towel so it doesn't get onto my workbench. And you can see I'm protecting my workbench with a board here. That board is courtesy of Cons out in Arizona. He made that one for me, and it's been appreciated. And it's done well to protect my workbench. We are going to start the reassembly of the pinion gear then. We've cleaned both sides of it. Fishing reel grease goes on the shoulders on both sides. You insert the yoke into the slot on the pinion gear, and then make sure that you grease the pinion gear. I use a artist's brush to spread that. That artist's brush helps me with the spreading of the grease, and more importantly, keeps the hairs tight to the brush so that they don't penetrate into the work. Nothing worse than trying to pick hairs out of a project. All right, I'm going to set those two posts aside. Next up, the pinion gear goes in. Now the slot faces to the back of the bridge. Put the spring on both sides. And sometimes this works better if you elevate it a little bit, because that pinion is, the yoke is not all the way down. I'm going to elevate it this way. What we want to do now is compress the spring to get it below the shoulder where that E-clip is going to go. Then we need to hold it while we set the E-spring. If you don't have the hand strength to do this, you can use a pliers for an assist, and that's generally what I do. I just release that spring there. So I'm going to bring the E-clip in. I have a little micro pliers. I'm going to set it into the middle of that piece and pull in. And then when you do that, you want to make sure that the spring is not caught in that E-clip on its return. We get to do that twice for your viewing pleasure, and because there's two of them on here. And do the same thing. We're going to compress the spring down, make sure that we're in the slot. Use my micro pliers, anchoring one side into the screw hole and then bringing it back. So that's how you set that pinion gear assembly. Next then, it's time to do that drag washer upgrade. There we go. First thing you want to do is make sure that the cavity of the main gear is clean. These are almost like an asbestos type of a washer. They wear down, but they wear down very slowly. It's almost like a brake shoe. We're going to do the same thing here that we did with the pinion gear, just has a lot more teeth to it and wider teeth. Come back in and take your hard bristled brush and pull through. And again, I'll pull through onto a paper towel. And you can see all the dirt and debris that's in there is coming out. That'll ensure that it's the smoothest operation of the gears. You won't get a thump or something because there's something jammed in the gear teeth. And there's a little bit more here. Okay, once that's done, make sure that the back is cleaned. This one has a lot of dirt on it, you can see, but that penetrating oils just help to wipe that off, and it looks like maybe I just left a little bit of paper towel on there, so get that off as well. All right, we're done with the main gear, other than greasing it. I'll take that grease, spread that out now. So the Sealine series goes from a very small one, 27H, to the 47H, which is a level lined, to the 50H, and then we have these 300, 400, and 600 reels. Think of them as 30, 40, and 60. And they all came into being right around the early 1980s, if I remember my dating correctly. These are 6 drag washer sets. You have 3 that are the fabric, or in this case probably the like an asbestos kind. 3 metals. 2 of the metals have this rectangular insert. One of them has a center side that's circular, and then the ears. Those ears anchor the main gear when you're tightening down. These hold the shaft. They alternate. 2 of the keyed washers go high and low. We start with a drag washer, and either one of the rectangular or keyed washers. Second drag washer, now the eared washer goes on. The drag washer for the third one goes on. The keyed washer goes on, and the cap washer goes on. And we had a couple of tension washers that went on top of that. We're going to hold them for now. We'll put them in once we install this in. Before we can continue, we need to set the anti-reverse. This is the one hook of the anti-reverse. This is the other side. I'm going to set that over the slot where that post goes, then we'll bring the post up and through. And then we can bring that anti-reverse spring on. Hook it on the one side, hook it on the other. Probably is easier if I do it on the dog since the other post doesn't move. That's the set for the anti-reverse. Make sure your post on the back is in. We've got one more post here that needs to go on. These are your posts that are going to hold the screws, the bridge to the screw. And again, this has got a rectangular piece to it. Okay, everything's loaded except the jack. We have everything positioned properly. We want to put the jack in. So hold your assembly, push in on the back of your pinion gear so that you create that space. And you can bring the jack in like that. And that will enable us to load this into the case. Now these pins might fall out a couple more times. Don't worry about them terribly. This is a straight kind of plug and play. Bring it in, locate the positions of the parts. Make sure that you lock in your jack to the bridge. Bring your studs below in. Make sure that these are flush to the case. Then we can load in the screws. Okay, we're all good. Hold those screws as you turn it over. And I'm going to put these in a alternating high and low position. So what have we done so far? We've completely taken the reel apart. We inspected the pieces and parts. David had asked that we replace the drag washers in them. So we've done that. We showed you how to unhook the yoke and the pinion gear assembly with those E-clips and springs, and how to reload them by compressing them and using a micro pliers to put them back together again. We greased up the reel, showed you how to set that anti-reverse, and well, we're almost done. You can turn it at this point, make sure everything's turning the way it should, which it is. Next one up then is that cap washer. Then we took a couple of tension washers. They fell out of the top, if you remember. The first one is beveled there, the second one is. And then I alternate those. Then we have our gear spacer, gear sleeve spacer. We have our big star adjuster. Be careful when you put this one on. It's got to go on square, otherwise you risk stripping the assembly. And well, if you start spinning that, just use your handle as a wrench. Once you've tightened down the star adjuster, let's bring that little tension clip in there. Next up is to bring the handle on. Oh. Note which one it was on. This is a two-step leveraged handle. Bring that on. I had that multi-wrench here before, we'll find it. This has the wrenches that are commonly used. It includes Penn, Daiwa, and some Shimano. You can find these online. And we have that little tie-down screw that's going to hold that from moving. Keep your handle firm. And then we can go about securing the side plate, giving it a test, see how we did. All right, we have all those screws that came out before, and we noticed that, well, there's 3 and 2, 3 large, 2 small, or 2 long, 3 shorter. We're going to take the spool next. A little bit of grease onto both sides of the stud on the spool shaft. Bring that in. Next up we have our lug that goes in. Find the section of the reel that has the lug. That's going to go up top. Make sure that it's a nice tight seam all the way around. And then we can go ahead and install the screws. Again, just like I did on the bridge, I want to alternate kind of side to side, up and down. And in this case, the 2 long screws go on the bottom at the reel seat. The other 3 screws are side plate screws. They go into the cross posts. All right, 2 more screws. And the all-important how did we do test. Well, I hope you're enjoying this. If you're still with me, I want to encourage you to subscribe again if you haven't subscribed before. And I'll use that notification button. That will let you know when I'm posting videos on the reels that I'm working on. And that you may find something that interests you. Today it's a kind of a sort of a vintage deep sea trolling reel. Tomorrow it may be a freshwater low profile bait caster or spin cast or a light duty reel. You never know. That's what kind of makes this fun and makes the channel fun. Okay, we are in free spool. Let's see how it turns. This one turns really nice. You do have a spool adjuster on here if you want to use it. Back it off, it'll spin more freely. Tighten it up, it'll slow it down a little bit. These are trolling reels again. You're not going to be casting these. All right, let's put it into gear. See how we did from a cranking standpoint. That is just a nice, well-made, easy turning reel. What can I say? Well, one of the things I can say is I want to take a moment to thank our first responders and essential personnel, our police, safety, fire, rescue, EMTs, and the like, for their help and support every day in keeping us safe. And I want to thank everybody for watching, particularly David for sending these reels in, and of course you the viewer. You're what makes this channel what it is. I appreciate your support. If you liked the video, please indicate that. If you want to see more, again, please subscribe. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day on the water. Thanks for watching.